one thing that Ed pointed out in his article is that Latino New Yorkers do have a fair amount of representation in government. There are, I think, 11 members of the city council that would report themselves to people of that heritage, and plenty of state senators and assembly people. Councilwoman Viverito, do you feel as though the representation that Latinos in New York City have reflects accurately their political power? And do you feel that it has delivered for that community whatever representation is supposed to deliver? And if not, why not?
Well, good morning, everybody. This is, it's a tough, not a tough question, I guess it's a tough reality to face, that we have large numbers and we haven't really been able, I believe, to harness the full potential of that power. And I think, Ed talks a little bit about it in the articles in terms of maybe as to why that might be the case. But I think that when you talk about the city council, for instance, when you have the Black, Latino, Asian caucus being a majority of the council members, I still have to be self-critical, and I don't think that we have the level of leverage that you would expect or you would hope on certain issues. And I think that just speaking a little bit in terms of what the success of a candidate, a Latino candidate would be, everybody hears about this crossover appeal, right, in terms of being able to speak in issues like I strongly identify as a Puerto Rican, a Boricua, born and raised, having Puerto Rican parents that were born and raised in New York, so I think I have the ability to understand both realities, but being strong, but also being able to discuss issues that have an appeal universally. So being able to talk about social equity, social justice issues, talking about creating an equal playing field, those are issues that I think can relate to any community regardless. And I think being able to do that successfully is something that any candidate will have to do. I think that at times, what I've seen is that people do, and I would agree with Ed in terms of the characterization, is that we are more interested at times in our own personal success and maybe not figuring out how we can harness the strength and the power that we have in numbers. And that's something that frustrates me personally, to be honest, because I think that there's so much more that we could do. So I don't know why that is, and I don't know why that happens. I know that my interest is to work with others that have a different mindset and figuring out how we can build coalitions with African Americans, Asian Americans, and the diversity that we have in the city to really create a more equal playing field for everybody. Among the minority now in the city, that's a problem. And I think that's why people get energized when they see candidates that look like them running for office. And when you have, President Obama running, and you've got historic numbers of African Americans voting. When you have Freddie Ferrer, you've got historic numbers of the Latinos running, because people want to see themselves reflected in those entities that have decision-making power over communities that have historically been disenfranchised and oppressed and left out of decisions. And that to me is vital. So it's going to be very hard for me personally to go into a 2013 cycle and not see a person of color in any sort of citywide position. And unfortunately, it's starting to kind of look a little bit that we're going in that direction. Poverty is not the same in every community. Public policy at the same time can't be monolithic either, I think. And we have to figure out how do we, really deal and prioritize issues and deal with them. But when you talk about engagement and the lack of, one of the things that I say, I don't like to use the word apathetic. I think when people make a decision to not vote, they're making a political decision. Because they are responding to the fact that government, right, and electeds are not addressing their needs, are not speaking to them, are not speaking for them. And so that to me is how do we get around that, right? And I think, in a very small way, we've implemented this participatory budgeting model in my community and my district, and the level of engagement that people, become involved, figuring out how do we become more of a participatory democracy, right? Where we're asking people to really make active decisions. And I think that that's the way you engage people. Like, they really feel that they're making decisions that impact their daily life. They're able to prioritize what the issues are and decide how money is going to be allocated. It's very powerful. So what we've seen in the 1 year, and we're in the second year of implementing participatory budgeting, is that we did aggressive evaluation, is that the people who are voting and coming out to vote in this process are people that typically have not been politically engaged. They haven't voted. The average person that voted in participatory budgeting is less income than the average person in the community, you know, and voting in higher numbers than in terms of the general voting. So it's more reflective of the populace.